Hi, this video is to serve as a review of the cell organelles from today's class. It's also a good way for you guys to study and to check your notes from yesterday. So go ahead and look at your notes and see if you got everything that you needed to yesterday. Before we get started, I want you guys to understand the cell as a single unit that's made up of smaller parts, and those smaller parts are called organelles. The reason when we call them organelles is because it comes from the word organ, right? We have organs in our body like stomach, heart, and those organs have specific functions. So just like that, organelles in the cell have specific functions. We call them organelles because they're really little. Okay, so now that we have that, let's get started. Okay, we started yesterday or Monday with vesicles, and we said that the structure of vesicles is that they are sacs and they are made up of lipids. And we said their function was to carry or transport substances around the cell. Okay, so great, let's see what that is on the picture. You guys have a drawing of this that I gave you on Friday and we colored, but here's another one. The vesicle would be this small little ball looking thing right here. Okay, that's a vesicle. And it's supposed to carry and transport substances. So that's what this picture is showing. It shows that this vesicle, okay, it's showing a pathway of vesicles. It's carrying these substances, and in this case, this substance is being released out of the cell. So the idea is that these guys are carrying things around in the cell. Sometimes they're going to let them go out of the cell, or sometimes they might bring them in somewhere else to the cell where it's needed. Okay, great, vesicles. Moving on. The next one was rough endoplasmic reticulum. Okay, so for the structure, you want to have something about membrane structures and they're stacked on top of each other like pancakes. The reason why they're called rough is because they have these ribosomes. So that's how you can distinguish the different endoplasmic reticulums, is that one of them has ribosomes, so it's rough, bumpy because of the ribosomes, and the other one doesn't. Okay, so this particular function of the endoplasmic reticulum, the rough one, okay, well, first of all, it's right here. It's all this blue stuff here. It's attached to the nucleus. And as you can see, there's all these little bumps everywhere. Those little bumps are ribosomes, so it's rough. The function of that, make it super simple. Okay, so the rough endoplasmic reticulum is going to help synthesize proteins. And I always think of this as like putting the finishing touches on proteins. Okay, so manufacturing. The reason why it's proteins is because it's studded with these ribosomes. Okay, moving on. The nucleus. Okay, the nucleus is this big thing in the middle, and we say that it's membrane bound. Okay, so in eukaryotic cells, we said, remember that we have a true nucleus. We have this membrane-bound structure in the middle, and it's a sphere. And all you guys got to know about the nucleus is that it contains genetic material. Cool, moving on. Mitochondria. Okay, so the mitochondria is these red things right here. They look kind of like beans, so that's what I put for the structure. Technically, if you went to higher levels, you would talk about that they have two membranes. So if you're really interested, you could say that there's two membranes in this organelle. Not that important for this class. But the function of the mitochondria is super important. The function is it's basically, you've probably heard this before, the powerhouse of the cell. Okay, so powerhouse of the cell. And, okay, we don't just say that for fun, right? The powerhouse of the cell specifically means that the mitochondria is where cellular respiration happens. Okay, which just means convert sugar to energy. Okay, so a chemical reaction happens in the mitochondria where we convert sugar to energy. So that's why we call it powerhouse, because of this whole energy idea. So I'm going to underline that for you. Powerhouse. Did I spell that wrong? Probably. Cool. Powerhouse of the cell. Awesome. Okay, moving on. Okay, cell membrane. Okay, the cell membrane is made of lipids, so that's why lipids and fats are really important. They make up the cell membrane, and it surrounds the cell. The function of the cell membrane is to surround the cell and protect it from bad stuff, from harmful, bad stuff is not very scientific, so I'm going to say harmful particles or items. Okay, cool. There's more that the cell membrane does, and we actually will spend a whole week on that next week. But for right now, it surrounds the cell and protects it. Okay, great. Cytoplasm. Okay, so cytoplasm is all this jelly stuff in the middle of the cell that aren't the organelles. So it's all this yellow stuff here. Okay, so the structure is that it's kind of like jelly. It's made mostly of water. And the function of the cytoplasm is just to cushion the organelles and to provide support. It's like a nice swimming pool for the organelles to live in. Okay, cool. Centrioles. Don't make too big of a deal with the centrioles. There are these things that are like glowing in this picture right here. The centrioles, I always think of them as licorice. So far you've got pancakes and licorice in this video. Maybe I'm hungry, I don't know. But we've got licorice. That's what we're going to call them. And basically they're made of these microfibers. Basically that just means small protein. Don't worry too much about it. But you should know that the centrioles are involved in mitosis. We'll get to that later in the semester, but basically mitosis means cell division. Okay, or the creation of new cells. Right, because remember we said in the cell theory, all cells are made from pre-existing cells. That's the third part of the cell theory, so if you don't remember that, you should probably review. Okay, centrioles, glowing licorice pieces. Okay, lysosomes. Okay, so the lysosomes in this picture is this lighter color one. Oh, here it is, right here. The lysosome, right here. It looks really similar to the vacuole. It's also a fluid-filled sac that floats around in the cytoplasm. But the lysosome's function is not the same as the vesicle. Its function is to help digest particles in the cell. Okay, so it's filled with enzymes that break things down. Okay, cool. Almost there. Okay, ribosomes. Okay, so the ribosomes, in addition to being studied on this endoplasmic reticulum, ribosomes are also floating around in the cell. I always thought of them as, in the picture that you have to label, they're like the little dots, but they're actually pieces of RNA or protein. If we remember, RNA is a type of nucleic acid. The main function of the ribosomes is to make proteins. Boom, simple. Okay, smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Okay, so also stacks of membranes that kind of look like pancakes. In this picture, not so much. They're showing the smooth endoplasmic reticulum here. It's also attached to the nucleus, so that's how you can tell it apart from the Golgi apparatus. But the smooth endoplasmic reticulum is responsible for synthesizing not proteins, lipids, okay, or fats. Usually the smooth endoplasmic reticulum is synthesizing lipids and fats for membranes, because the cell has to make membrane because it has a membrane. So think a lot of times it's making its own membrane. Right, so it's this really great unit that has these parts work together for it. I remember smooth because lipids, I think of like oils and fats. It's not like rough. It's like usually smooth and creamy, so that's how I remember that one. Okay, Golgi apparatus. Also another stack of membranes that looks like pancakes, but you can tell it apart from the endoplasmic reticulum because it's not attached to the nucleus. It's kind of over here on its own. So that's the green right here. The Golgi apparatus is, it's a lot of times referred as the packaging center. Okay, so what they mean by that is it's going to put the even more finishing touches on materials like proteins and lipids. So think of the packaging center as putting finishing touches on cell products, so things that the cell makes, and then ships it off in vesicles. So that's what this picture is showing here. So we've got this packaging center. So we have, say, for example, we've got on the endoplasmic reticulum, you've got these ribosomes. Say they make a protein. There's some processing that goes here. Well, what happens next is that protein then gets sent to this Golgi body or Golgi apparatus where more finishing touches get done. And then as you can see, these little, we said vesicles were the first one. So the vesicles pinch off with the product inside the vesicle and then get sent somewhere. In this case, they're being sent out of the cell. Bam. Okay, nucleolus is small area inside the nucleus. It's denser, and all you need to know is ribosomes are made here. Okay, great. Last one, cytoskeleton. Okay, so the cytoskeleton is in the cell, in the cytoplasm, I mean, and it's made of special proteins. It's basically like a backbone for the cell. So it gives support. The Cell World app is really great, showing the cytoskeleton because it's 3D, and it shows you it's stringing from the cell membrane, all the way to the nucleus and giving support for the cell. Think of the word skeleton like we have skeletons, right? If we didn't have skeletons, we'd be like these droopy things like Gumby or something. So same thing, without the cytoskeleton in the cell would be all droopy like Gumby. I think it's Gumby, that, and it would be it wouldn't be like supported, and it would just be mushy. So that's the significance of the cytoskeleton. Okay, I'm sorry I talked fast. I wanted to get through this. So at this point, you guys have, hopefully you have this chart filled out. You have your cell picture you colored, with shows you where the structures are. You now have this picture. You have the Cell World app. You have the worksheet we're doing in the book. And you have the cell analogies. So I would study all 4 of those things in preparation for your quiz on Friday, and you will get 100%. Okay, thanks. Bye.